Yo guys, it's creamslice. I hope you're all good. So today I'm actually going to cover my first sunbracers build ever on the channel. I know I'm disgraced to the warlock community. I apologise. I'm putting the osmiomancies away and I'm heading back over to Solar 3.0. With this build you will have infinity loop that puts out insane damage. We can get permanent restoration ×2 without even using our healing grenades. We can stun unstoppable champions using the artifact mod. We can free up our weapon slot so you can put together any crazy combo that you want within reason, and I will give you a few of my examples later on in the video. And we always have our well of radiance up whenever we need it. This build literally has everything for any activity. So the first thing we need to grab is the sunbracers. Sunbracers will increase the duration of your solar nades, and solar melee kills grant unlimited nade energy for roughly about 4 seconds. You can usually throw up to about 5 nades at a time, but I always keep one loaded just in case. Then you want to use an aspect touch of flame to further increase a lingering duration, and it adds lava blobs that deal extra damage as the solar grenades are just melting your enemies. So I'm going to break this build down into 3 stages, guys, so you can get familiar with the mechanics and the gameplay loop and how we achieve restoration ×2 infinitely. So you want the aspect heat rises so you can consume your grenade and you can hover, and whilst airborne kills grant you melee energy. So what you're going to do is pop your grenade, get a melee kill on or off the ground to proc sunbracers. By getting nade kills in the air, it will regen your melee ability. So you pretty much rinse and repeat, and that is the basics of this build. So if you get familiar with that and how you can proc it using heat rises, will greatly benefit you when we go on to the next step. The second stage of this build is working restoration and cure into our build, so we have some form of survivability. You want to be using the Phoenix dive. So with this mechanic and how it works, builds into our unkillable part of the build. So when you dive to the ground, you are granted cure for about 2 seconds, but whilst heat rises is active, when you dive you are granted restoration ×2 roughly for about 2 seconds. So with this mechanic the time has to be right, so you will need Ember of Inferion to extend restoration as we Phoenix dive, because the cooldown is so short. What Ember of Inferion is going to do, it's going to extend the timer, so then we've got restoration ×2 for long. So how you do this, basically you're going to throw a solar ability while you are airborne and time your dive so that you land as your enemies are scorching, and this will give you an extended restoration with Inferion. If you're using a solar weapon, you can keep restoration up all the time with kills, or even your ignitions or your solar ability kills will still play a part in refreshing your restoration. You want to slam down with your Phoenix dive while you have heat rises active, and then it will grant you restoration ×2, and it will then give you about 12 seconds of restoration ×2, which is absolutely godly. So now that we've established how the gameplay loop works and how we incorporate restoration ×2 into it, we're now heading into the last stage. And what I'll do is I'll go over the rest of the fragments that we're using and the armor mods which help blend this build together and make it an amazing build for you guys. So the last fragments are Ember of Singeing. This will ensure that we have our Phoenix dive up all the time by constantly scorching enemies. We have our grenades and our melee all doing that without you even knowing. So passively you're going to have your Phoenix dive up the majority of the time. We have Ember of Torches. Every time we hit a target with our power melee, we become radiant, giving us and our allies a weapon damage buff. I think it's about 20%. So we, you know, with the loop that we've got going on, we're always using our melee, so you'll pretty much always have radiant active at all. And then we've got Ember of Ashes. This gives us an extra 50% scorch stacks when scorching enemies, which causes them to ignite easier. This is a really quality fragment for what we are trying to achieve with this build. There will be a dim link and a build pick for the build. I know a lot of people are doing build picks, so I only thought it's right to jump on the train. I suppose it makes it easier for you guys, so stay tuned for the screenshot at the end of the video. Using elemental ordnance for that well, when we get a grenade kill, this will proc heavy-handed, and you need the mod elemental charge, so now we become charger light with 2 stacks, which gives us 2 chances to get our melee back fast with heavy-handed. We have Well of Life for our extra healing from the wells that we pick up, and a great mod is momentum transfer. What this will do is when we're constantly throwing our grenades with sunbracers, it will reduce our cooldown for our melee, meaning that we all will pretty much always have our melee up with heavy-handed and momentum transfer, so we can constantly proc the sunbracers loop. And we have Inferno Whip to stun unstoppable champions. We also have Seeking Wells, so our wells track to us. You could use Phantom Might if you wish instead of Seeking Wells. I just kind of found it was a little bit easier. As for weapons, in the build pick I've put up 2 of my favourite weapons that I like to use with this build. They are solar weapons for Ember of Inferion. My go-to choices are Amit AR2. They've just had a crit buff yesterday as the time I'm recording this, and you can get an incandescent roll on it, plus it deals with barrier champions. Or Ogma PR6 with the 2 perks Wellspring and Demo for insane ability spam. So if you can get a weapon with Demolitionist on it, or Wellspring, will play into this build amazingly. Because we have Inferno Whip to stun unstoppable champions, it leaves you to free up maybe your special weapon. So I was running a heavy machine gun for our overload champions, and I was also running with a horde in the top slot, so now we pretty much cover every champion. And pretty much that's the build, guys, so I hope you like it. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.